Good evening once again. Uh, Thank you for joining the class. Now, how do we go about it? Now there are 8 chapters in this LEED O&M. So in the first chapter, we'll be discussing about the introduction part of it. Again, in the second chapter onwards, we'll follow the scorecard. Anfal, you remember about the scorecard? BD plus C? Rizwanji, you remember about this scorecard?
Scorecard is about, I think, LEED rating system about like, for example, building envelope and about other criteria. There are some scores. If you meet that criteria, the prerequisites and optional
Credits, yeah.
credits, so you can get that thing, and with that we can analyze how much points we can achieve for certain building or
Perfect. Yes. It is like basically an Excel sheet which contains all the credit categories. Basically, credit categories you can consider as the modules. Okay.
yeah.
Then under credit categories, you will have credits and prerequisites.
Mhm.
Prerequisites are the mandatory part of it. Credits are optional.
Yeah.
So for credits, you get points, and prerequisites, you don't get any points. And after that, so once you come, as you said, like completely, if you meet all the requirements and then you total it up, and then based on number of points, you'll be getting the certification. Okay.
Yeah.
So here we will be looking into the outline of LEED. How did this LEED O&M adapted over a period of time? Then what are the minimum program requirements for the project to be eligible to apply for LEED certification? Then what is the benefit of using LEED strategies into the project? What are LEED goals based on which the LEED strategies are being developed to implement the LEED rating system into the building? Then what is the credit structure for EBOM means existing building operation and maintenance. Okay. Basically, operation and maintenance is done for the existing buildings, correct?
Right.
The next LEED certification and recertification process. How this process is being implemented. Step-by-step process we will be going through. Then how does this LEED work plan? Again, this is the steps for certification part of it. Then occupant types. So this is how we will be covering the introductory part of LEED operation and maintenance.
Right.
Okay. So first, before we go ahead, we will understand more about LEED. When we look at LEED GA is basically based on the LEED AP BD plus C, that is building design plus construction. Okay. But here in LEED O&M, this is a different route, and the project scorecard is entirely different from BD plus C. The reason being, in BD plus C, it includes everything that is connected with respect to the construction of the designing of the project, construction of the project, and the maintenance of it. Okay. But in O&M, we are more concerned on the performance aspect of the systems in the buildings. Okay. So if you look at the LEED story, how did it start? In 1993, it is started by 3 architects, that is Rick Federici, David Gottfried, and Mike Italino. You heard of American Institute of Architects? There is an association in US.
Yeah.
So these people are members of it. So they have invited representatives from 60 different firms and several non-profit organizations from AIA. And in 1993, they started, they formed something called a USGBC. All the 3 people together. So once this is developed, they started developing on this rating system, considering taking the 3 aspects of LEED, that is people, planet, and profit, which means economically, environmentally, and people friendly. all the strategies that can be implemented. So LEED version 1 came into existence in 1998. In 2001, version 2 immediately came in with a very short notice. But again, in 2003 is when LEED version 2.1 came into existence. This they from here they started upgrading to a proper classification of it. Then in 2009, there is like version 2009 is the rating system that is developed. And in 2014 is where version 4 came into existence. And 2019 is where version 4.1 came into existence. But now this is in execution mode. But coming to the examination point, we are still in LEED version 4 only. Okay, but buildings can apply for 4.1. So when we talk about LEED O&M, how did it got evolved? This is how. First, it started with 2003 existing building pilot project. Then in 2005 as version 2, 2008 as existing building operation and maintenance. How the adoption happened or modification or changes. In 2009, it came as O&M 2009 version. 2014, again, version 4, O&M existing buildings. In 2015, it is LEED Dynamic Plague Performance Scorecard for LEED certification. This is a common thing. But generally, either we go for LEED version 4 or version 4.1. In 2018, it came up in as a beta version. Then now they are directly implementing version 4.1, sorry. And projects are getting certified. If you have any doubts, you can just stop me if you have any clarifications or anything. Now, these are the segregation that happened. That is BD plus C, ID plus C, O&M, ND, and homes, which we have seen before, right?
Yes.
So these are the adaptations in O&M. That is data center, warehouse, and distribution center. Hospitality, schools, retail, and existing buildings. Now, when we talk about LEED O&M, here there is no design, but you will be developing the strategies. How will you develop the strategies is the most important part, which we'll be learning in this chapter. On what factors we will be designing the strategies. And second thing, it is basically like based on performance. How do you evaluate this performance? You will fix up a time period for each of the credit that is to be implemented or selected, and based on the requirement of the credit, you will meet these specifications and then you move forward on it. That's why performance period, a definite time period during which operations performance are measured for credit evaluation. Means what is the present situation as of today?
Right.
Like example, you take what is the total amount of water consumption that is happening. Then you will say, I am implementing certain strategy. Then after implementation, over a period of time, what is that savings I am achieving it? When I say I am achieving certain savings, then based on that performance, you will be getting the number of points. Projects has to apply for recertification at least once in 5 years. Because this gets expires every 5 years. But you can reapply after every 12 months. After every 1 year, you can immediately keep on applying again and again.
So this is valid for 5 years.
Yeah, once you receive a certificate, it is valid for 5 years. But again, at the same time, after every 1 year, you keep on applying again if you want.
But valid for 5 years. One time if you got it, it is valid for 5 years.
Yes. Means today, say in 2000, you applied. You got a certificate in 2000. It is applicable till 2005.
Right.
So again, after 5 years, it gets expired and you need to apply.
So what is the benefit to apply every year? You said that you can apply every year.
Okay. It all depends upon if you want to keep on improving, right? As you are already implementing it, see what happened, I'll tell you. There is one company here, they are into 5-star hotels, okay?
Right.
So till few years before, they were constructing LEED projects, okay? But they are into LEED silver.
Right.
Or just LEED certified projects. But now what happened last year, the owner decided all our projects have to be LEED platinum only. LEED platinum only.
Right.
So now what happened? Existing buildings, they started applying for this LEED O&M for LEED platinum, and they are achieving that certificate. For what? For branding purpose. The value of the organization increases, right? They make, see, for maybe for certification to get a building certificate, they might be spending 80,000 or 100,000 or 200,000 dirhams, okay, or dollars. But still, on an overall, they attain this value on a much higher range to the customers. They do marketing and they'll increase the property prices. Their asset value automatically increases when you say it is a LEED certified project.
Right.
So that is what it means here.
Okay.
So when we talk about O&M adoptions, when we say retail, retail is for what? Existing retail spaces, both showrooms and storage areas. Schools, for existing buildings made up of core and ancillary learning spaces. That is school buildings from KG to 12. It is used for higher education, non-academic buildings on school campus. Means even non-academic buildings for the schools also comes under this LEED O&M schools.
Why
The
the
next,
universities are not covered in that?
sorry,
Why the universities? You said that in schools it's covered. Okay, up till
12th, 12th standard.
12th standard. So what about the college and universities?
See, if you remember, see the second statement, can also be used for higher education.
Okay, can also be used for higher education and non-academic.
It is up to the project team to decide which one to go with. If you remember in GA, we have seen that, right?
Yeah.
Now next comes the hospitality. Hospitality is all about existing hotels, motels, inns, and other businesses. All these things comes under hospitality. Means where there is a short-term lodging with or without food.
Right.
Then there is something called data centers. That is again buildings that are designed especially for high density computing equipment or server racks like Google, YouTube, Microsoft, yeah, IBM. Then warehouse and distribution centers. This is again for warehouses where you store the material and you distribute it. Then existing buildings. That is if there is a project or a building that does not fall in any of the above categories, then you take it as an existing building.
Okay.
Okay. As a common thing. If that project is not meeting any of the above things, then you can take it like commercial buildings or anything. There is something called multifamily mid-rise and multifamily low-rise also. This multifamily mid-rise is multifamily residential buildings of 4 or more occupiable stories above grade. Again, multifamily low-rise, that is multifamily residential buildings of 1 to 3 occupiable stories above grade.
Is ground plus 1 to ground plus 3? Low
Sorry?
rise. Ground plus 3.
Yeah.
And mid-rise is
4 and above.
Okay. Okay, so it starts from ground
Up to 3 stories.
Up to 3 stories is low rise. Above that is comes in the mid rise category.
Yes, residential buildings means you can have ground floor 2 parking spaces plus 3 residential, then that goes under low rise only.
Yeah.
That's what he said, 1 to 3 occupiable stories.
Okay.
Those 3 stories must be of occupiable.
So if it goes above 3, then automatically it will go in mid rise one.
Yeah, mid rise. That is 4 and above.
Right.
Coming to minimum program requirements. Again, if you remember this, we have discussed in LEED GA also. Up to 9 floors is called a mid-rise. 8 floors, 4 to 8. 9 and above comes under existing buildings or normal. New construction kind of a thing.
Okay.
Now coming to minimum program requirements. Means what is that a project must acquire or must be in order to apply for this LEED O&M. The first condition is it must be in a permanent location on an existing land. What is this permanent location? It is basically a movable buildings that are not eligible for LEED. The other day, one of the student was asking, what about the ships? Or if I construct a house on a ship or a building on a boat. So does that count as a permanent eligible for LEED? No. Once you construct a building and you move that building from one location to another, it loses its certification. That is why it said movable buildings are not eligible for LEED.
Here one question comes in mind, sir. Like the guy has a good question. What about the luxury, big luxury yachts and the ships?
Yeah, that is what it is. See here.
Yeah.
First sentence, this includes boats and mobile homes. You cannot apply for LEED for them.
So what other criteria comes? Any other criteria comes on that?
Means I did not get your point.
Okay. That's
No.
also building, movable building. So if LEED doesn't apply on that because of this criteria that it's not on the existing land on a permanent location.
Yes.
So any criteria comes, it comes in any other criteria?
Yeah,
or
it doesn't come. It is not at all eligible, first of all.
Okay.
See now, like basically the thing is now you want to do some like a civil, right? Any exam, there is a pre-qualification, right?
Yes, yes.
That pre-qualification itself is not there.
Okay.
So now, example, you construct a house in Dubai, say. Okay, demountable house. Yeah, okay. Tomorrow you move this house from here to US or Canada or India or Pakistan, any other location.
Right.
It is not eligible.
Okay.
Prefabricated or modular structures and building elements may be certified once permanently installed as part of a LEED project. Got the second point?
Yeah.
That is meant by permanent location. That is, prefabricated and modular structures are eligible only when it is on a permanent location.
Yeah.
They are permanently installed without removal. Next, existing land. When you say existing land, buildings located on previously constructed docks, piers, jetties, infill, and other manufactured structures in or above water that are permissible, provided that artificial land was not constructed by the owner of the LEED project for the express purpose of constructing the LEED project. That is existing land, you got it?
Yeah.
Second point, must use reasonable LEED boundaries. That is, the LEED project boundary must include all contiguous land that is associated with the project and supports its typical operations. What is it? Basically, it must include all contiguous land and that is associated with the project and supports its typical operation. What it includes? It includes land that is altered as a result of construction features used primarily by the project's occupants, such as landscape, parking, sidewalks, septic tanks, stormwater treatment equipment, and landscaping. Means, generally, you have a building footprint, right?
Yeah.
What is the building footprint? The edges of the building construction, correct? All the plinth area, right?
Right.
But around the building, you would be requiring some space in order for you disturb some of the area, during the construction part of it, right?
Yeah.
So that also has to be taken into consideration.
Okay. Which normally they say offsets and all that kind of thing.
Yes, yes. You need to mark all that and say this is what the LEED boundary is.
Okay.
Even the adjacent space, if you are using it for storage of excavated earth or storage of material or kind of disturbance that you're creating. Yeah.
Basically, the actual, for example, if we took some land on rent, so what is the actual boundary of that land? And whatever we will construct under that, that all comes in that boundary. Whatever comes under that boundary would be the part of this.
Say, example, you have 10 acres of land, okay?
Right.
But you are constructing a building in 1 acre of land.
Right.
And around that building of around that 1 acre, you are disturbing another, say, another 50 cents or 1 acre of land around the building, okay?
Right.
For the excavation purpose, movement of vehicles,
Right,
storage
right.
of materials, everything. All that is also taken as a LEED boundary.
Not the balance.
If you read the statement, it includes the land that is altered as a result of construction and features that is used primarily by the project occupants.
Right.
Got it?
Right.
Yeah. Now, if you see the one, the LEED boundary may not unnecessarily exclude portions of the building, space, or site to give the project an advantage in complying with credit requirements. What is this understanding? You say some portion of the site is having an issue, okay? So you cannot just simply isolate that area. You need to take that also and say, because at times what will happen, there is a contamination in the soil, okay? If there is a contamination, you need to remediate that, then only it is eligible. Or maybe the project might get ineligibility and you will not be getting the enough number of points. So in that case, you want to reduce the project boundary or LEED boundary. So in that case, what will happen? You cannot ignore or isolate or remove that.
Right.
Okay, that is what it says. The LEED project must accurately communicate the scope of the certifying project in all promotional and descriptive materials and distinguish it from any non-certifying space. Yeah. Third point, it must comply with project size requirements. What are the project size requirements? We have seen this in GA also. LEED BD plus C and O&M, it is 1000 square feet of gross floor area. It is ID plus C, it is 250 square feet of area. LEED for neighborhood development rating system, it is at least 2 habitable buildings and no larger than 1500 acres. Yeah.
1000 square feet. Okay. It's same for BD plus C and O plus M.
Yes. Got it?
Yes.
For homes, it must be defined as a dwelling unit.
Right.
Now coming to what are the benefits of using LEED? When we say LEED certified buildings, for what purpose? They are designed in order to reduce or lower the operating cost and increase the asset value. What happens? Overall, you will be lowering of the operating cost and also increase the asset value. Reduce waste sent to landfills. You reduce the waste that is being sent to the landfill. That is, the waste is being reused again or recycled, or it could be anything else. But you are diverting it from the landfill. Second, you reduce this water and energy consumption. In other terminology, it is called as energy and water conservation. More healthful and productive environments for occupants. Means the spaces that are there, right? The built environment inside the offices or inside the building. That is called a built environment. Reductions in greenhouse gas emissions. That is, the overall activities that are being performed will support in reducing the emissions of greenhouse gases. Then qualification for tax rebates, zoning allowance, and other incentives in many cities, especially in US, UK, and all that, right? They give huge tax benefits for this.
Okay. Is there any benefit in the UAE?
Till now, it will not, it did not. Maybe in future it might. Okay.
Right.
Now, LEED goals. We were discussing. We have to set these LEED goals, right? What? What are the LEED goals basically? There are 7 LEED goals that are defined. What are those? Basically, to reverse the contribution to global climate change. This is one. To reverse contribution to global climate change. Second, to enhance individual human health and well-being. This we have to remember in sequence. This we studied in GIA also. To protect and restore water resources. Then to protect and enhance and restore biodiversity and ecosystem services. That is the nature related. To promote sustainable and regenerative material resource cycles. That is reusing of waste. Waste is again taken in as a raw material in order to generate new products, right?
Right. Right.
To build a greener economy and to enhance social equity, environmental justice, community health, and quality of life. So this we need to take it in sequence. So based on which the scoring for the credits and prerequisites, the scoring for the credits is given. Or in other words, we can say few prerequisites are defined based on the impact that a particular strategy will have on the environment, people, and economy. Against these 7 LEED goals. Now coming to project goals. How will you define your project goals? All right. That is for your building. The project goals should reflect organizational values and operational realities as well as the sustainability targets. What are the 3 things it has to meet? When you're setting your project goal, it should reflect organization value, how your organization is connected to particular strategy, how it is having an impact on the operational realities practically on the ground, and how that is meeting this sustainability targets. These are 3 important factors that need to be incorporated when you are selecting your project goal, or when you're defining, basically not selecting, when you're defining your project goals. Project goals should include building stakeholders who understand current facility practices such as owner, building management staff, occupants, and vendors. A diverse team ensures that all operational elements will be considered and the program will be supported by the entire team. The goal is to identify ways to reduce the loads and environmental harms of each system without increasing those of any others. Basically, what is our project goal? If you look at it, the overall, it is to reduce the loads and the impact on the environment, negative impact on the environment. Okay.
Right.
So how do you set up these things? One, first you need to collect a baseline information. Means as of today, how the building's performance is, how the operations of the building are, how the systems are performing. All these things have to be analyzed. That is, identify existing policies, practices, equipment, contracts, and budgets to set a baseline for improvement. Then prioritize the list of areas that require significant change, moderate change, low or no cost change in operating practices. First, you are collecting the baseline information. Second, you are prioritizing based on its importance. Third one, identify any organizational issues or pressures that may influence the project goals. Fourth, prioritize the strategies. How will you prioritize? That are aligned with environmental goals, organization values, and operational realities. You might get questions on this. Now we will see each of these goals. Environmental goals we will see, organization goals we will see, operational realities. Okay. So what is this environmental goals? The selection of LEED credits often depends on project's environmental context, particularly current energy use and site condition. Means presently how the site conditions are. Then energy signature. To understand how the building behaves in response to outdoor environment. What is this energy signature means? How much of energy being consumed by the building with respect to the existing outside environment. So this is a passive tool generally used in designing part of it. Okay. Basically, they'll calculate how much of hourly, it is called, see, it is an hourly profile of heat flux into or out of the space due to particular components such as a window, tromble wall, or a sun space. Means based on the usage of the material in the building facade, okay, or building envelope, how it is reacting, means the amount of energy consumption that is happening. The signature depends on the orientation and specification of the components and the building mass characteristics. Got it? So this is how we will define based on the materials that you are using, based on the massing, based on the orientation. How will you do it? Based on the sun rays, the climatic conditions, all these things are taken into consideration. It provides the designer with specific quantitative suggestions. Means increasing the quantity and reducing the quantity. Like an example, you want to use a glass facade. You will see what is the solar heat gain and heat loss. So if you reduce the glass percentage and increase the solid wall, then inside of the building, what happens? Maybe the energy consumption is less. Right?
Right.
Those kind of strategies will be developed through different options and all this. And how to blend them to achieve a desired result. It helps in selecting and sizing passive solar elements on a building. It helps us to select and size the passive solar elements, means not active solar elements. Passive means indirect. Hourly heat reflex profiles for each candidate design elements are determined, and these profiles are then matched to the hourly energy requirements of the space, accounting for weather conditions, internal heat profiles of the space, and the mass characteristics of the building. Simulation analysis techniques are used to determine the energy signatures, the load profiles, and check the final result. What is happening? This is basically analyzing each and everything. Say, example, you are doing any renovation, right? So when you are doing renovation, how do you see that? What are those things that you can implement in order to reduce this energy level, consumption levels? All these things can be taken into consideration. Yeah.
Right.
That is explanation more I have given in order to understand what is energy signature, okay, for the buildings. But this is a material that is from the LEED. What it says, the selection of LEED credit often depends on the project's environmental context, particularly current energy use and site conditions. So here, energy signature, it to understand how the building behaves in response to outdoor units, outdoor environments, an analysis of measured energy use in relation to seasonal fluctuation in temperature. If you remember, we have Pineapple Building in Abu Dhabi, right?
I don't know.
In Abu Dhabi, there is one Pineapple Building. It looks in the form of a pineapple, okay?
Okay.
So the outside fins will keep closing when there is a sunlight towards that direction. And it keep opens when there is no sunlight.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It helps in energy conservation.
Yes.
Okay.
And energy signature highlights seasonal norms that may prompt operating change and alerts the team to operating inefficiencies. If you see in some of the latest buildings, what is happening? They are using vertical fins and horizontal fins, right? They are rotatable. Morning, you see it will be in left direction. Evening, it will be in right direction. Based on the sun. There it will provide shade, reducing the heat, solar heat loss or gain, but at the same time, it will provide light. An energy signature provides insight into whether current systems are meeting the building heating and cooling loads. Yeah. So basically, all these elements are used in designing using this energy signature part of it. Now, energy benchmarks. What is this benchmark? Comparing the building's energy use against a recognized standard. So we know benchmark, right? There is a set of standard average against which you will compare your building's energy consumption. By benchmarking early, the project team will have time to look at monthly trends in energy use intensity and energy star score. This energy use intensity is again based on the amount of energy that is used per year or per person per square meter or square feet, basically, right? Then staff will become familiar with recording and reading consumption data and be ready to set these efficiency goals. Why? What are all these things what we are studying now? Basically, these are used in order to set the goals. Okay.
Right.
Then the third environmental goal is based on factor based on which the goals are set, that is site analysis. A detailed site analysis identifies specific conditions. What is that? Topography, wind pattern, solar availability, shading, water bodies, view corridors that may guide decisions on rainwater runoff mitigation, landscape water reduction strategies, on-site renewable energy, and other capital investments.
So what is topography basically?
Topography is about the, the gradient in the land, slope.
Okay.
Means on one side of the ground, maybe it is on a higher level. The other side, it might be in lower level, right?
Mhm.
That is called topography. Yeah.
Right.
Opportunities for improving and preserving the ecological integrity of the site. Anfalji, you want to ask something?
No, I'm fine. I'm with you.
Yeah, okay, fine.
Yeah.
Now, environmental we have covered. Now we are talking about the organizational, the second aspect. In organization, what happens? Aligning project goals with owners and tenant organizational values. Means the end users of the building and the organization values you need to compare. What is that? How this will help? Basically, in order to strengthen these operation strategies, must strengthen the business case. Corporate social responsibility report. What is this corporate social responsibility report? The owners or tenants' organization goals and priorities articulated in this report may include aspirations that align with LEED credits. What is happening? The owners or tenants' organization goals and priorities articulated in this report may include aspirations that align with LEED credits. CSR reports, no? What the organization is doing for its customers, for its employees, to the society, how they are doing charity, yeah, and how they are showing this green initiatives, or we say about supporting the business with other businesses and all that. Then organizational annual metrics. Many organizations have requirements for reporting annual statistics on greenhouse gas emissions and waste recycling from their operations. Selecting credits whose achievements improves these metrics will reinforce the current efforts. That is organizational annual metrics, because how this is having an impact on the organization's reports. Third one, HR policies. These policies and programs may set goals for health initiatives, employee retention, commute trip reduction, or workplace satisfaction, each of which suggests a focus on credits that target employees' well-being. Shareholders or stakeholders' concerns. Stakeholders in the organization and project development team may have strongly held ideas about specific sustainability issues. What is this? Involving them early in the process ensures that their interests are well represented. Now, the credit structure of LEED for building goals. For existing buildings pursuing LEED certification, here, what is the difference I want you to understand is that in LEED GA, we have gone through the strategies, right? The concepts. In LEED AP, BD plus C, what happens? There, we only implement everything, all the strategies, because you start implementing before you start your design, right? So, but in LEED O&M, what happens? Because O&M is for the existing buildings, right?
Yeah.
You cannot implement, there is no design submissions or design strategies that can be implemented at this point, because already the building is existing, right? So there are two aspects. One is establishment period. The other one is performance period. So for every credit, there is an establishment period, and for every credit, there is a performance period. What is this establishment period? It is a time when building infrastructure is assessed, policies are drafted, programs and processes are put in place to enable ongoing performance measurements. Means, in other words, we can say the feasibility study that is done in order to analyze the existing condition of the building and developing the policies. Got it?
Yeah.
That is the establishment period. Performance period is what? It is a continuous implementation of the strategy set during the establishment period. Means whatever the policies you have been developed in the establishment period, implementation of those policies comes under the performance period. Okay. So based on this only, the scoring will be given. Each prerequisite and a credit lists the establishment and performance requirements separately, and the establishment requirements set projects up for compliance with the performance requirements. Establishment requirements fall into two categories: based on building components and site infrastructure, based on policies and plans. How they are classified into? One, based on the building components, means existing building components and site infrastructure. Second, based on policies and plans. Now in establishment requirements, building components and site infrastructure are the characteristics and the systems of the building. Means it's already existing. Correct? Building components is nothing but the building systems. Site infrastructure is which is outside the building, inside the premises. Yeah, the hardscape, the landscape, existing nature, if any other miscellaneous buildings, everything comes under site infrastructure. Parking lots, all these things. Landscaping. Policies and plans or statements that set goals and outline the implementation of operational management strategies. What is this? It is basically when you say building components and site infrastructure, that is meters, lighting, water fixtures, everything. Policies, it is about site management, purchasing. Now coming to the performance requirements.
Can you please go on the back slide? Let me note that establishing the statistic and foundation, that is the building components and site infrastructure, meter, lighting.
One is the existing components, the physical component part of it. Okay. Second part is the operations part of it.
Right.
See, building component and site infrastructure, which is already existing. Okay. The systems or the existing physical assets. Okay. Coming to policy, how you are managing that, how you are operating that building.
Right. Right.
Now coming to the performance requirements, they fall again two categories that require discrete actions, and second one is that requires ongoing tracking and measurement over time. Tracking and measurement. So actions are regularly repeated to inform continued performance and to identify opportunities for improvement. What is it? Actions are regularly repeated again and again to inform continued performance and to identify opportunities for improvement. Ongoing tracking occurs continually, verifying ongoing high performance and upkeep of building systems. Here, performance, when you say actions and policies. In actions, what you will do again? Surveys, audits, testing, all these things. You are checking the performance measures, how it is changing. Coming to policies, what type of policies are you making in order to enhance the existing systems? Because once you got a survey, once the auditing is done, right? Once the testing is done, you get results, right? You get the reports. Based on this, the policies keep changing, right? Clear till here?
Yes.
These are the two important things which we need to understand. One is the establishment period. Second one is the performance period. Okay. Now, understanding these performance periods. When you say understanding, LEED for building operation and maintenance certification is based largely on successful outcome during the performance period. Means what is the result? When sustainable operations are being measured, means in the establishment period, you are setting up the policies, and in performance period, you are implementing that. And at the end of it, whatever the results, what you're showing or the difference in the results is what it matters. Many prerequisites and credits require that operating data and other documentation be submitted for the performance period. Especially, it is more of a documentation part of it. Since the project certification level is based on these outcomes, the performance period may not have any gaps defined as any period of time longer than 1 full week. The initial performance period is the most recent period of operations preceding the certification application. What is it? The initial performance period is the most recent period of operations preceding the, means immediately after your certification application, you start working on the performance part of it. After you set the policies, it must be at least 3 months, but not more than 24 months, except as noted in the credit requirement. Means the duration of this performance for the certification, minimum of 3 months and not more than 24 months.
Okay.
Establishing the policies and checking the performance part of it, right? It again varies from credit to credit based on its complexity and various factors. So how do you understand this performance period? All performance periods must overlap and conclude within 30 days of each other. So what is this? All performance periods must overlap and conclude within 30 days. How it is? See the example here. There are credits on the first column, start date and end date. If you compare anything, it is within from 3 months to 24 months. Yes, the duration part of it. Correct. So now the performance period must end with the same 30-day interval. How it is? If you look at the end period, right? April 2022, April 1, 25, 26. Yes. So the last date, what is it? April 26th, right?
Yes.
From there, within 30 days, we need to see that. How it is, see here, 60 days, sorry. To ensure that certification is awarded based on current billing performance data, LEED for O&M certification applications must be submitted for review within 60 calendar days of the end of performance period. If you see in this table, performance period is ending when? April 26th, correct?
Right.
Here, the documentation has to be submitted 60 days, 60 calendar days, not the working days, calendar days. Okay. And this, the 60-day period starts the day after the last day of the latest performance period. In this example, the last day of the performance period is April 26, and the project team must submit its application in 60 days counting from April 27. Are we clear on this?
Right.
There are two figures which we need to be very clear. One is 60-day period, the other one is 30 days. What is this 30 days? All your credits performance should be analyzed within 30 days. That is the end date for all the credits must be within 30 days. Okay. But once you finish, which is the latest credit date, from that day you have to take 60 days. Within that 60 days, you have to submit your documentation. I hope this is clear, right?
Yes.
Anfal ji?
Yes,
Then,
yes, Chandra.
yeah. Today you are silent.
No. It's fine. I'm okay.
It's okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Initial certification and recertification. When we say initial certification, the process begins when the owner selects the rating system and registers the project. It means the time when you start selecting the rating system and registering the project with GBCI. The LEED for building operation and maintenance rating system is applied to buildings seeking LEED certification for the first time. Means which all projects you can apply. First time if you are doing a certification for the existing buildings. Second one, to projects previously certified under any version of BD plus C. Means already if the building is a LEED BD plus C, still you can apply for LEED O&M. Okay. So LEED O&M is the only LEED rating system that requires project to recertify. What is happening here? LEED O&M is the only LEED rating system that requires projects to recertify. What is this understanding?
It means, I think what I understand is whether we are following that system, that's why we need to recertify. For example, we got that LEED O plus M, but after a certain time on year, we stop monitoring and doing the implementation of the process on energy efficiency.
No.
Water.
We are going in wrong direction.
Okay.
In BD plus C, once you take, it is enough.
Okay.
In O&M, what happened? If you remember in the beginning, we said it will expire every 5 years, right?
Right.
So on the 5th year, if you still want to have your certification valid, so again in 5th year, you have to reapply. Okay, which means you need to show the system performance improvement better than the previous performance. Say example, first time you applied, okay? In 2020 you applied.
Okay.
Your energy saving has reduced from 100 kilowatt hour to 80 kilowatt hour. Okay. Then till 2025 it is valid, right? Again in 2025 you need to reapply.
Right.
And when you are doing again the establishment period and the performance period, you need to show an improvement in the reduction in energy consumption.
But after the certain level, it will stop on certain level. You cannot further reduce it.
No, this is a mistake actually. What happens if you see when the systems are becoming old and old, okay, the energy consumption becomes high and high.
Yeah.
Right. So which
Yeah.
means that there is something called commissioning. You're asking me, right? Certified building commissioning professional. There we do an analysis where the building's data is there for 150 to 100 years. Where on a regular basis they keep on controlling this energy. Because see the chiller, say you're using a chiller, right? Say it consumes X amount of energy.
Right.
But as it keeps becoming old, what will happen? It takes more energy, right?
Right. Right.
And the output will be less.
Yes.
Correct? But that is the time when you will decide whether you have to retain that equipment or you have to replace that. Yes or no?
Yes. Yes.
When you replace that, obviously what will happen? Your energy consumption will come down.
Yes.
That is how you are controlling it.
Yeah, but it will come down on the same level once we install the new one and we start monitoring at that time.
Yeah. Okay. Here that is what when we are doing the reporting part of it, what it says, how do you identify that? You are not how to put this? I'm just trying to get it. It is basically if you do not control it, what will happen? It keeps on consuming more and more, right?
Yes. Yes.
Say from 100 you came down to 80. Okay.
Right.
From 80 you came down to 60. So this is the base you can do it. If you leave it at that point, will the energy consumption will remain 60 throughout its life? No, right?
No.
It will go again up to 80 or 100, right?
Yes.
When the systems become old, system performance is down and all this. So again, you try to bring it down to 60.
Yes.
But as per your graph, it has to go to 80, right? From 80, you're again showing an improvement to 60.
Yes.
So that is again performance improvement only, right?
Yes. Yes.
Your question is a very valid question. I'm not denying, but this is what is happening. You renovate a building. Now, the previous HVAC systems, what happens? They consume more. But today, they're reducing, right?
Yeah.
Like that. Okay. Initial certification is any first time application for LEED for building operation and maintenance system. Recertification is what? It is a subsequent application for certification after a project has received an initial certification under any version of LEED for building operation and maintenance again. Recertification is again and again repeatedly doing from second time onwards. First time if you are doing it is called an initial certification. Okay. Projects must recertify within 5 years of the previous certification and are eligible as often as every 12 months. You'll get a question in the exam. The recertification performance period extends from the date of the previous certification to the date of the recertification application. Yeah. The recertification performance period extends from the date of the previous certification to the date of recertification application. If the project persists new credits in the recertification application, they may use the initial certification performance period rules unless otherwise noted in the credit requirements. Again, you need to understand what are the credit requirements and you need to follow if you are deviating from the previous policies, or otherwise you can just submit the documentation with the proof and then you will get the certificate, recertification. Recertification is the subsequent application for certification after a project has received an initial certification under the version of this. Projects pursuing recertification are required to submit only performance documentation for review. Second time, what is happening? You need to just submit the documentation with the proof. Projects are not required to submit establishment documentation unless there have been major changes. We were discussing, right? Establishment period and performance period.
Yes.
So once you establish those policies, and when you're going for recertification, if you're still having that, if you're following the same credits, right? Then in that case, what you need to do, you can just submit the documentation. LEED work plan. What are the steps to certification? First, select LEED rating system. You can select LEED rating system from any of these adaptions. Second, check minimum program requirements, which we have seen already. Then define the LEED project scope. That is, review the project program and initial findings from the goal setting workshop. You remember what is goal setting workshop?
Goal setting workshop.
Yes.
The goals, that project goals, environment goals, you mean?
When I say goal setting workshop, no.
Sorry, I don't
It is the
know.
first meeting that will happen where the project owner will tell what his intention is all about the project. Why he wanted to do this project, objective of the project.
Objective of the project.
From there, you start analyzing what goals we can set it. In integrative process, we will be discussing about this goal setting workshop in LEED GA and LEED AP BD plus C also. What will happen? First, we need to analyze the existing condition, okay, of the site and infrastructure, everything. Then you do a preliminary analysis. And then you come to the workshop and you will say, these are the things that we can do it and which we cannot do it. That is the first workshop that is conducted with all the primary stakeholders that are related to the project with the owner and his representatives, minimum of 4 plus. That meeting is called a goal setting workshop. Got it?
Yeah.
Considerations include multiple buildings and management variations. Map the LEED project boundary to comply with the minimum program requirements. Finally, investigate any special certification programs that may apply based on the project scope, that is volume program or a campus program. We know what is volume program and campus program, right? What is this volume program? Anfalji?
Yes, Chandra.
What is volume program?
Volume program. I remember this, but I don't know how to explain.
Hey,
I don't.
KFC and McDonald's.
Yeah. Okay, similar establishment in.
Rizwanji.
I got it. Okay. You take the approval for the one building, KFC, and then you do the apply for the same buildings at multiple locations. And campus is for the campus buildings.
Yeah, campus. Here, volume program is not that. What happens in volume program, KFC and McDonald's, they have a standard features, right? Standard characteristics. So the basic concept is submitted with the standards.
Yes.
Okay. And they'll get an initial approval. Later stage, every site wise, if there is any differentiation from the actual concept that is submitted, then from there, they will start. They will only highlight those changes and submit that particular documentation and they'll get the approval. Basically to reduce the cost and time. Okay. In campus program, volume program is where the projects are located geographically in different locations. In campus program, what happens? Where all the buildings are located in the same
place.
geographically located in the same location or within same campus, which belongs to the same owner. If the owner is planning multiple similar projects in different locations, volume may be useful program to streamline certification. If the project includes multiple buildings in a single location, then campus may be appropriate. Got it?
Yes.
Develop LEED scorecard. The fourth step means, what is this developing LEED scorecard? There is already an existing scorecard. Here you will be selecting which of those credits or prerequisites or credit categories you will be implementing. The selection of the credit categories within the LEED scorecard is called the developing of LEED scorecard. Then assign the roles and responsibilities for each of the credit and prerequisite. Then determine the performance period. From when to when are you going to implement it? Then develop a consistent documentation, means regularly submit the documentation with accuracy. Then perform quality assurance review and submit for certification. A quality assurance review is an essential part of the work program, means maintaining the complete system. A thorough quality control check can improve presentation of the project and avoid errors that require time and expense to correct later in the certification process. The submission should be thoroughly proofread and checked for completeness. Numeric values that appear throughout the submission must be consistent. Got it?
Yeah, performance or the performance.
Okay.
Just a minute, please.
I'll share this recording.
Yeah. Review. Yeah, please proceed.
Next, effective policy development. Again, when we say policy, what is that? When you're developing a policy, what needs to be included? One, physical and programmatic scope, means describe the physical and programmatic scope of the policy, means clearly defining what is the physical assets that you have it, how are you executing it, what is that exempted, what is included. Defining the scope very clearly, that is what. If any spaces within the building or site are excluded, describe the exemption and explain the reason why. Then second, duration of applicability. Identify the time period to which the policy will apply. The policy shall take effect from so and so date and shall continue indefinitely or until amended or replaced by a subsequent sustainable purchasing policy. Example, this is shown. Okay. C, responsible parties. When we say responsible parties, by full name, title, position, name of the person who will implement the policy, and if a vendor is responsible for implementing parts of the plan, name both the vendor and the billing manager to whom the vendor reports. Including contact information makes it easy for anybody who refers the policy to reach the responsible party. If there are multiple responsible parties, consider identifying clearly which components of the policy each oversees. Sustainability goals and objectives. Identify the sustainability goals of the policy. Goals must be measurable and are typically numerical. Although measurable goals must be set, documentation to demonstrate actual achievement of the set goals is not required for these policies. Means 50% of the waste will be diverted from the landfill, or 75% of the ice melt purchased will meet sustainability requirements. Yeah.
Right.
Next comes the performance evaluation metrics. How will you evaluate? Explain how actual outcomes and sustainability performance for each element of the policy will be measured and tracked over time. How you will see the percentage of waste diverted will be measured by weight, or the percentage of cleaning purchases that meet sustainability requirements will be measured by cost. Next, procedures and strategies for implementation. Outline the procedures, strategies, and the best management practices that is used to achieve the goals. For projects with multiple tenants, describe how building managers will provide education and guidance to encourage tenants to comply. Means, what are those strategies that you are implementing? How you are making the end users or stakeholders part of the strategy. To help with implementation, list contacts, websites, past experience, and other resources. Quality assurance process. How the responsible party will verify that the policy is being implemented, that the metrics reflect the actual outcome, and that performance persists over time. This also includes periodic checks to make sure the policy is consistently implemented and that the set goals are being achieved. Now we are coming to occupancy types. What are the different occupant types?
Mr.
One is-
Chandra,
Yes.
yeah, just want to interrupt you here. How many more slides are there actually?
Another 10.
100 and
Another 15 slides will be there.
more, 15 slides more.
Another 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes.
Okay, okay. No, basically, we didn't took any break continuously. It's more than an hour. So I just want thinking to just 5 minute break.
Okay. You want to take break?
Yeah, just a 5 minute. What about Mr.
So here we are talking about regular building occupants. When we say regular building occupants, who are completely throughout the day, or at least more number of hours that are there. Employees include part-time and full-time employees. Totals are calculated using a full-time equivalent, FTE we call that. Okay.
Okay.
This is again calculated with the 8-hour day calculation. A typical project can count FTE employees by adding full-time employees and part-time employees adjusted for their hours of work. That is, total working hours is taken into consideration and divided by 8. Okay, then you will get the total full-time employee list.
FTE.
You got this or no?
Yeah, got it. Full time
Okay.
employee.
Yeah. Then volunteers who regularly use a building are synonymously with employees for the purpose of LEED calculation. Then residents of a project are considered regular building occupants. Residents, right? They stay there only, right?
Yeah, they stay
Then
on there.
primary and secondary school students are typically regular building occupants. Inpatients, medical, surgical, maternity, specialty, all these things comes under regular occupants. Peak inpatients, again, highest number of inpatients at a given point, typically of 24-hour period. That is also taken as.
We're talking about every kind of buildings.
Yes, in general, yes, everything.
Okay.
When you talk about full-time, regular building occupants, if you see the word of regular building occupants, all these things are coming into that.
Right.
Staff, that is again coming under full-time employees. Hotel guests, considered as regular building occupants with trade-specific exceptions. Calculate the number of overnight hotel stays guests based on number and size of units. Assume 1.5 occupant per guest room and multiply the resulting total by 60%. The number of hotel guest occupants may be divided by actual or historical occupancy. This is again hotel guest. Now coming to visitors. Who are the visitors? Who are in transit, basically. Who come intermittently. That is retail customers in retail stores. Outpatients in healthcare. Peak outpatients, again. Volunteers who comes once in a while and do the work and go. Higher education students, like visitors, they just come for a kind of a library or kind of a session and they go. They're not like full-time study and all this. So occupant types are typically counted in two ways. Daily average takes into account all the occupants of a given type for a typical 24-hour day of operation. Peak totals are measured at the moment in a typical 24-hour period when the highest number of given occupant type is present. So these are the two ways of calculating. No need to go in these details, just for an outline of it. Because when in the question, when this terminology comes in, you must not get confused.
Right. So,
whenever possible, use actual or predicted occupancies. How will you calculate this? For what purposes are required? For the credit purposes. If occupancy cannot be accurately predicted, one of the following resources to estimate the occupancy, how will you, you're not getting a calculation, right? How to calculate this full-time employees or visitors and all this. Then you will take a default occupant density from which standard? ASHRAE 62.1 2010. Again, default occupancy standard from CEN 15251. Again, default occupancy counts appendix 2 and results from applicable studies. So any of these standards, you need to pull it out and then you need to put forward. If numbers vary seasonally, use occupancy numbers that are a representative daily average over the entire operating season of the building. If occupancy patterns are typical, that is shift overlap, significant seasonal variation, explain such patterns when submitting documentation for certification part of it. How this occupant is impacting on the existing building. Occupant interaction may enhance or compromise the sustainability and efficiency goals. Because when you are setting up the goals, right, you need to take this occupancy levels into consideration. Because certain strategies you cannot implement when it is fully occupied. You need to do it in off-peak hours.
Right.
Correct? If the occupant, examples are shown here, if the occupants have complete control over temperature and lighting, energy consumption may rise, but too little control may increase complaints to facility staff. If you give more control, what will happen? The energy levels goes up. Again, if you do not give control, then what will happen? You get frequent complaints. An open office layout that allows views to the outdoors could compromise acoustics and productivity and also affects heating and cooling. That is, energy efficiency and indoor environment quality goals entail many such trade-offs. Means we need to balance both the things. We cannot compromise.
Right.
Surveying occupants during the establishment period will shed light on their preferences and needs and help inform project goals at the outset. Means during the establishment period, you need to do the survey properly and then you set up the goals. If you do not do that, then you will have an impact on the performance period part of it. You will not be getting the right results. A subsequent survey will indicate how well the new policy and systems are working.
Right.
Tenant space exclusions. What is allowed? Projects with lease spaces may face particular challenges in earning LEED for, again, existing buildings operation and maintenance credits. If you are leasing out offices, retail shops and all these things, right? At that point, you face a lot of problem in achieving the credit. So that can be taken under exclusions. So what conditions can be taken is what we are discussing here. Whereas the prerequisite addresses the base building systems or are limited to areas under management control, many credits require commitment and cooperation from tenants. So only the base building which is under the control of the land developer or a landlord, okay, is taken into consideration, and commitment and the cooperation from the tenants is taken. Nowadays, if you go into any malls, right, like MAF Mall and all that, what they do first, before you sign a lease agreement, they'll ask you to sign a contract, sign the sustainability policy documents. That after the lease agreement is signed, the tenant has to follow all these conditions. Okay, you cannot do your design. You need to follow the design guidelines that are given by the mall people. So project teams should review the lease terms and management situation and either obtain commitments from tenants or pursue credits that do not require tenant participation. Projects that have few large tenants may be able to satisfy the requirements more easily than buildings with many small tenant spaces. Projects may exclude 10% of the total gross building floor area from the LEED project boundary, which will apply consistently throughout the submission except in environmental quality, this one, tobacco, where the entire building must be considered. Means here for smoking control, right? Tobacco smoke control. Under this credit, you cannot exclude the area. You can exclude only up to 10% of the total gross building floor area that is within the LEED project boundary. Here the other one is projects may take an additional 10% exemption on grade by grade basis if it is not possible to gather the necessary tenant data for these credits. Means on an overview, what did you understand? Based on the credit, you will be following the standards, the exclusions part of it. Okay, some credits you cannot exclude anything, but some credits you can exclude up to 10%. And the third category is you can go another additional 10%, so which means 20%. Okay, the specific spaces excluded as part of 10% can vary by credit. Project teams must clearly note which spaces have been excluded in which credit when preparing documentation for certification. What is this minimum occupancy? Which are those locations you take it? Energy and atmosphere, minimum energy performance. Here we require minimum occupancy requirement, and no other credit specify minimum occupancy threshold except that one. Coming to variable occupancy, again we'll be looking at water and energy prerequisite, indoor water use, credit also indoor water use, minimum indoor air quality performance, enhanced indoor air quality strategies, thermal comfort, interior lighting, daylighting views, occupant comfort survey. Again, when we talk about variable occupancy, when occupancy rates vary over a performance period, that variation should be reflected in credit calculation, that is time weighted average. For partially occupied buildings, means not completely occupied, project teams document the performance of the entire building as if it were fully occupied.
Right.
Completely vacant or unused space has no activity and may lack the furnishing, fixtures and equipment intended for regular operations. Partial occupancy changes the way the performance is documented for the credits. Oh, okay. Last slides. Projects with several physical distinct structures, that is primary, secondary school projects, hospitals, hotels, resorts. These are defined as Energy Star building rating purposes. They are eligible to include more than one physically distinct structure in a single LEED project certification, because campus, right? We are looking at campus. The buildings to be certified must be part of a same identity, that is, it belongs to the same owner and a same functionality part of it. Same owner in the same premises. The project must be analyzed as a whole and for all minimum program requirements, prerequisites and credits in the LEED rating system. That is for the campus part. All the land area and all building floor areas within the LEED project boundary must be included in every prerequisite and credit submitted for certification. Means you cannot exclude anything. There is no specific limit on the number of structures, but the aggregate gross floor area included in a single project must not exceed 1 million square feet. This we need to make a note of it. No specific limit on the number of structures. You can have any number of structures, but the aggregate gross floor area must not exceed more than 1 million square feet of area. Okay. Any single structure that is larger than 25,000 square feet area must be registered as a separate project or treated as a separate building in a group certification approach. With this, we are done. Thank you.